Michigan State is keeping me working on Sundays. There's good and bad to that. Happy to be with you, Tom Lydon and Mike Stone.
I thought I said goodbye to you a few weeks ago.
Sorry about that. I'm back, and I guess I could be back again next Sunday, but we'll see how it goes with Michigan State. That's the big story this week. Justin Rose is in Charlotte. We're going to join Justin and Joe Rexrode shortly. But your opening thoughts on a matchup where you have a 7-seeded team in Michigan State. Many people think that's probably a seed that was too high. We entered too low, right, supposedly, against a 2-seed in Virginia. A rematch of last year should be a good game.
It should be a good game because you have two teams that are pretty physical. Virginia plays great defense. They really do. And getting Julian Anderson back a few games under his belt will definitely help. Michigan State can win this game, though. But there is a huge if factor, and that is if they play smart. I mean, we've seen it throughout the season, but especially even the game they won against Georgia, where it looks like they're going to blow them out. The next thing you know, they're throwing the ball away. They're doing crazy stuff. The free throw issue came back. This can't happen. Good teams that win in these tournaments play smart, fundamental basketball, and it's going to be real tough for them to do the crap that they've been doing and still win against a really good Virginia team, who, of course, Michigan beat last year to get to the Elite Eight.
All right, there is very little time to waste. Let's get right to the guys who are in Charlotte. The game tips at 12:10 today are Justin Rose and Joe Rexrode are down with Michigan State in North Carolina, and let's hear what they have to say about today's matchup.
Stoney, Tom, we can tell you that Charlotte, what a nice host city for this. Joe Rexrode from the Free Press joins me. And Joe, when you look at this matchup, when you look at Virginia, how much do you think of last year's matchup between these two teams?
Yeah, I think it'll be similar. And Michigan State was the more talented team then, even though they were also a lower seed, 1 versus 4. This is 2-7. But it's going to be the same kind of game. It's going to be slow. It's going to be physical. It's going to almost hurt to watch it at times.
There were times when players and Izzo compared them to Wisconsin. Same Wisconsin team that Michigan State probably should have beaten last weekend. How much are they going to have to? And I know that you and I had a Twitter exchange where Wisconsin takes advantage of every little mistake you make. Virginia, very similar in that sense.
Yeah, they are. You know, this is still, to me, more like the old Wisconsin with Dick Bennett. Obviously, it's Tony Bennett,
right,
his son. I mean, this Wisconsin team, a little more offense, a little more easy to exploit defensively. That's the thing. Virginia, I mean, this is, I think, the best defensive team in the country. It's the biggest team, and there's one guy under 6'5" Michigan State's going to see tomorrow. Everybody else is a 6'5" or above, bigs everywhere, a 7-footer off the bench. But it's the same sort of thing. You're right. You cannot lose focus. You cannot make a ton of mistakes because they won't.
Tom Izzo did say that the word of the weekend is focus, getting these guys to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. 12-1 in the second game of a weekend for Tom Izzo. I mean, do you think that these guys are going to be as ready as they need to be?
I think they will. I think they'll be. Locked in. I mean, I think we've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially in Chicago, you know, they've reached a new level of play. But yes, can they do it for 40 minutes? Because of Wisconsin, it was 35, right? Georgia, they probably had about 10 bad minutes, but 30 really good ones. It was enough to win.
Right.
I think in this one, it's going to have to be awfully close to 40 really good ones to pull this off.
I got to believe that somebody besides Travis Trice, Brandon Dawson, and Denzel Valentine is going to have to step up. Who is that in your opinion? Well,
just from the matchup perspective, certainly I think Matt Costello and Gavin Schilling both have to play well. Costello had been playing well. He missed a bunch of bunnies the other day, was down on himself. He's still, I think, playing well. Gavin Schilling hasn't played very well lately, and they need that. But also, Bryn Forbes was huge with 14 points against Georgia. They could really use another shooter in this game.
Maybe Tum Tum. He's continuing to start to take those confident shots. He's starting to look for it a little bit more. 6 to 10 points from him would be how far?
Oh, that would be huge. And if he had that, it probably means he's got a couple breakaway layups in there too. And can Michigan State get any transition going? They're going to try, but Virginia knows that you have to get back against Michigan State. And Virginia wants to play this game in the 50s.
Talking about that half-court set, and it struggled at times against Georgia because they're a very good defensive team, as Virginia is going to be. Some of the players said just cutting, being better with the picks, and fundamental things. Do you see that? They need to be perfect on that stuff, but do they need to do something different offensively to get some traction against this team?
Well, again, anytime you can get any kind of quick shot, you take it. Early offense or whatever you want to call it, secondary break. But the thing is, I think a month ago, 6 weeks ago, Michigan State's half-court offense really struggled. A lot of this year,
yeah.
I think this matchup would have been terrible for Michigan State in January, February, because they just weren't executing the way you need to. Now, I think they've really figured some things out. And a lot of times that happens with this offense. Like you said, the screening, the cutting, the timing takes a while to get it there. Everyone's role is kind of clear now. That's sort of been in flux during the season. So I think they're as ready as they can be to execute in the half court. But you have to execute and you have to make shots when you get them.
Yeah, if Michigan State shoots well today, I think that they have a chance in this one. You give me a ballpark right now. We're going to do our predictions later on in the show. But I like that this team has morphed into whatever style they need to play to win games.
Right, exactly, and that's a huge part of what Tom Izzo does in scheduling. He knows you're going to see all kinds of different things in this tournament. Can you be able to play? Look, they'd rather play a team that wants to go up and down. They'd rather play Gonzaga, okay, right now. But I think that they've got enough rugged guys. They've rebounded and defended well. That they can play in this type of game and have a chance.
That's Joe Rexrode. If anyone knows Michigan State basketball, it's this guy. And coming up later on in the show, we'll have our predictions and see if the Spartans can make it back to the Sweet 16.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. We will check back in with you. We also are inviting your feedback, your questions, your predictions. Use that hashtag 7SportsCave, and we might share some of those on the air in our next segment, so get to it. I think this Michigan State team, Stoney, is a team that you kind of know who they are. It's a lot like the Lions throughout the season. That's, if they just stop making stupid mistakes, or if they don't make penalties. When a team does it over the course of a full season, it's tough to break those habits. And I think that they were given a gift in that Georgia should have won that game. They missed so many shots, they missed so many layups, they missed so many opportunities.
But so did Michigan State, as Joe mentioned. Matt Costello, who had been playing well, missed a lot of layups. They need Marvin Clark to come in and do what he's done lately. They're talking about the Tom. He's not going to score 10 points. I mean, that's just not who he is. If he hits a couple shots, that's good. Brendan Dawson, once again, is going to be the key to this team, because when he gets energized, for some reason, it catapults everybody else. And you don't want to put it all on one guy, but he has to stay on the floor.
Yeah,
he got those two early fouls Friday. Had a really good second half. They need a complete game from Brendan Dawson if they think they're going to win. They're underdogs by 4.5 points.
And your hope is that a guy like Brendan Dawson, who has been on this team for 4 seasons now, is smart enough to not commit the stupid foul 30 seconds into a game. He has to know that him not being on the floor changes the complete complexion of any game, the tone of the game, the attitude of the game. He can't make those things. To me, the key guy is Trice, because it's not just him scoring. It's him setting the pace. It's him finding the open guy and then occasionally hitting the big shot, which he's done.
And playing under control, because that's what they have to do against Virginia. And Joe mentioned the size of Virginia. I mean, their guards are 6'5". I mean, defensively, wingspans and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be very tough. This is going to be a very ugly game. Michigan State historically can win ugly games. They beat them last year in an ugly game, but Gary Harris, Adrian Payne, Keith Appling was really good. But Virginia's best player is gone too from last year, Joe Harris. So I think Virginia's going to win a very ugly game.
The Cavaliers 30-3. Stoney says they're going to go to 31-3. I want to talk about the biggest sports names in Detroit, because they're all on the front page today for coming back from an injury or sidelined because of an injury. And let's hit the Tigers first, because piece of good news, both Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera will be playing today. They're splitting the squads. It's good because they're back in action 2 weeks before opening day. I also want to see how their bodies recover before Monday, right? That's the big thing.
Right, and they're off tomorrow, so their next game would be Tuesday, so that's good. And like you said, split squads, they're both going to DH. Osma says he wants to see how Cabrera goes before he puts him at first base a little bit. Look, these guys are going to hit. They're hitting machines. I'm not worried about that. They would not rush these guys in with still 2 weeks left before opening day if they weren't ready. But it is a great sign. We were very worried that both Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera would not be ready for opening day. Barring any crazy setback, they will be ready for opening day, and Lord, they need them.
Big time, big time. The other piece of news which I found interesting, obviously Price gets named opening day starter. Here's how little concern Brad Ausmus has for Price. He hardly watched him pitch yesterday. He wasn't even at the field when Price was pitching until the very bitter end of his 4-inning outing, because he was watching Victor and Miguel. So he's dead set. Price is the guy.
By the way, what do you think about the whole hubbub over opening day? I thought Verlander handled it well. But to me, if everybody's healthy, they're both going to pitch 33, 34 times. Does it really make that much of a difference?
It does, and I get the people who are hung up on the ceremonial aspect of it, and they look back at how many consecutively Jack Morris started, and that means something to some people. All that this team should be worried about is whatever it takes to win a World Series, because that's what they have.
Exactly. They've done everything else in this era since 2006. They've been, for the most part, terrific. Been to 2 World Series. 1-8 in those World Series. They've dominated this division for the most part. It's going to be tougher now because the division's better, but just win a World Series. And here's the whole thing, though. to look ahead like that with the way this division is, and who knows what this baseball team is, it's a little foolhardily too.
Yeah, tough division. Don't forget, Royals out of the Central last year to the World Series, not the Tigers. Let's talk about the Wings. Got to be a certain level of concern. They've lost 6 out of 8. They got 12 games left. They were at Pavel Datsyuk today as they host the St. Louis Blues, who's the top team in the West. Ottawa's sitting there 4 points behind in the 9th seed.
Yes.
Very close, teetering a bit on possibly not making the playoffs.
Yes,
Come on.
they are teetering on that. Boston's just 3 back for the 8th seed. And look, I don't think it really makes a difference who they're going to play, whether it becomes Montreal if they're an 8th seed, Tampa. Chances are they'll probably hold off in the 3rd spot in the division and play Tampa, and they haven't beaten Tampa all year. They're just not playing crisp hockey. I mean, over the 2 games they lost in Florida to the Panthers and the Lightning, they played a lot better, but they still make these turnovers. Jonathan Ericsson still, although he's had a pretty good year, still making bonehead plays. Goaltending is still good, but not great. I'd like to see them get more consistent. They have 4 home games in a row. They have to get 6 out of these 8 points. Have to, or else they're in trouble. Ottawa comes in the following week. Can you imagine the way they're playing? A point behind the Red Wings for the last playoff spot. I'm not panicking, but today's game against the Blues, crucial. Every game now is huge for them.
Yeah, if you haven't been down to Joe Louis, now is the time to get your tickets because you got a nice stretch against 3 Western teams, and you got Tampa Bay coming in, and as Stoney just alluded to, Ottawa coming in short order. So it should be a good final 12 games of the regular season for the Red Wings. That is our first segment. We got 3 more to go. On the other side of the break, we're going to take some of your comments and questions on Twitter. The hashtag is 7SportsCave. Mike Foss standing by in the control room. We will be back after this short break. Headed over to the bar. See you in a minute.